Hello and welcome to Smaulgld's In Case You Missed It, top gold and silver stories for the weekend at October 29th, 2017. China's central bank governor warns on China's growing debt pile. People's Bank of China's governor warns of potential sharp correction in a Minsky moment. Venezuela lets a $1.7 billion gold swap with Deutsche Bank lapse. China issues $2 billion worth of dollar-denominated bonds, which was 11 times oversubscribed, and China hopes its state-owned enterprises will be able to lower the U.S. dollar borrowing costs as a result of the favorable reaction to the Chinese dollar-denominated bond offering. China to purchase 24% of all Chinese residential real estate in 2017, and continued pump and circumstance from the gold-backed yuan crowd. These are some of the stories we're going to be covering. So strap in and let's get to them. Before we go on to the stories, gold and silver closed last week slightly down. Gold was down about $6-7 or less than 0.5%, and silver was down about 16 cents or about 0.9%. Silver and gold, however, both closed below their threshold psychological marks of $1,300 an ounce and $17 an ounce. Wishful thinking. Gold-silver ratio remains above 75-1 during the week and has remained at that level for quite some time. And for those of you who follow the gold-silver ratio, you can always click on the link and check out the historic gold-silver ratio. And for those of you who want to track it and not on this post, you can always go here to the top of Smaulgld in the drop-down menu, and you can check out the gold-silver ratio. And if you're really lazy, you can check it out on the side of the Smaulgld sidebar right there. It's kept live there. But for the historic charts, you'll have to go and click on the link. Now, let's take a look at some of these stories. So first of all, we still got this gold-backed yuan story out there. I can state right now that after 2 months of looking for a source about some level of gold being involved in this yuan-denominated oil futures contract, there is none. There has been no announcement other than the pumpers trying to say, well, China would never announce it because of Sun Tzu. Why tell people what you're going to do? Okay, first of all, if you believe that type of thinking, that China is some type of strategic genius for not telling people what they're going to do, then how do you expect anyone to buy into the yuan as an international currency? If you can't trust what they're going to do and you think it's some type of strategic genius, they don't tell you what they're going to do. How can you trust their financials? How can you trust anything? In fact, the same people, they brag about, oh, China has more gold, they're hiding it, and that's really smart and that's real strategic. Well, when you're on the other side of a transaction, what you think in that circumstance is strategic is actually fraud. So you can't have it both ways. Either China's being genius by not telling you stuff, but don't expect then international investors to flock into the yuan if that's the mentality that people have about China. I don't think that's the case. I don't think China runs around and just makes up stories and hides things to their advantage. I think that is a myth that the gold pumpers put out there in order to make China look out to be some type of monumental, change the world with their gold and crush the dollar. I think they use that narrative or that Sun Tzu nonsense to push the concept that China is really on the move. As we'll go through today, we will see where China, this is not meant to bash China. This is meant to show the other side. China is not necessarily on the move and set to crush the dollar with this gold-backed yuan, which they're not going to issue. They've indicated there's no indication that they're going to do a gold-backed yuan. It makes no sense for them to even do it. And there's no indication that they're going to do it. But look, let's take a look at some of the issues that are going on in China today. China expected to buy 24% of all residential real estate for sale. Now, I don't know what Sun Tzu says about governments buying the real estate, but I doubt that that is some type of strategic move that one should admire. When you have to buy 24% of residential real estate, remember we talked about the ghost cities. This is not a country that's ready to put the yuan on an international scale. They're not going to try that. What they're trying to do right now is keep the wheels on their economy, which they've managed to get going really fast, really quickly. And now they realize that, according to the governor of the People's Bank of China, who it would be like Janet Yellen saying this, they know what they've done. They know that they brought all this demand forward. They know that they brought all this GDP forward, and they know they did it by borrowing, and they know, as all of you know who follow this channel or any alternative media channel, that the way debt works is, once you're in a debt Ponzi scheme, the only thing that keeps it going is more debt. And if you don't add more debt, then it collapses. So that's the problem they have right now. They don't need to complicate things, and they don't even suggest that they would by backing this oil contract with gold. It's not going to happen. Maybe one day in the future, but it's certainly not going to happen in 2 months. And by the way, that story we will see just die as the contract approaches, and they'll come up with some other pumping story about why gold is set to skyrocket. What's the story? Because they can. Well, here you go. Here's a story. This one I think is about Japan. It's not just China I'm picking on, because all central banks do this. But right now, the biggest offender of money printing is China, not the United States. Yeah, Bank of China is buying bonds from scandal hit Kobe Steel. Bank of Japan is buying bonds from scandal hit Kobe Steel. Now, why would they do that? Well, because they want to run their economies. They're not allowing the free market to decide that Kobe Steel maybe isn't a good buy. No, we can't have Kobe Steel go down, so the Bank of Japan decides they're going to buy it. Same with the Chinese government here. Can't let real estate go down. 24% of residential real estate they're going to buy. Residential floor space sold in China last year was 18% purchased by the government. Story here, never before has an emerging superpower used a printing press to turbocharge growth in dominated industries. Talking about China there. It's a story on gold. China's home price growth steadies in September as speculative curbs weigh. So they need more stimulus. But you know, gold-backed yuan. That story is so ridiculous on so many levels. But yet the story persists. And apologies for those who are tired perhaps of hearing it on this channel, but I'm tired of hearing it from multiple places. Every time I open my computer, open the browser, I see some other story who thinks they've discovered something that the dollar, the petrodollar, there you go, is doomed because there's going to be this petro yuan and it's going to crush the dollar. And they've got some superior insight as to how this is going to happen, and the dollar's days are numbered. Here's a nice little aside here. Here's the Central Bank or Royal Bank of Canada CEO trashing Bitcoin because it doesn't solve a main need in society right now. And this is from the bank that sold all of their gold and has no gold. Although Canada does have a AAA rating. Yeah, I'm just putting this again on record. There will be a yuan-denominated oil futures contract, but no indication that it will be backed or redeemable in gold. Some people are saying that I've said that there won't be a yuan-denominated oil contract. Sure there will. But that contract, as we will see, has nothing to do with gold, nothing to do with redeeming gold. It doesn't mean they even change the pricing of gold from dollars to yuan. It just means you can hedge in yuan. There's not even physical delivery under that contract. Continue on. Now, Venezuela allows $1.7 billion in gold swap with Deutsche Bank to lapse. So basically, they lost 1.3 million ounces that they put up for collateral to get some cash, and now Deutsche Bank has 40 tons of gold as a result of that transaction. But you see, Venezuela, they're going to price their oil in yuan. A big deal. You heard that was a crashing result. Big deal. Venezuela is bankrupt. So I'm sure Venezuela is immediately, any yuan they get, they're going to convert it into dollars and try to pay down their debt so they don't go bankrupt. There's your statement again. Yeah, sovereign size. Remember sovereign size gold buy in 45 days, 45 days. Game changer. Well, when that story came out, you can go back. I should have put the link here. I immediately wrote that there will be no sovereign size gold buy in 45 days. Just another pump story, as is this gold-backed yuan. And remember, 45 days came and passed, and we didn't hear anything about it in the 2 or 3 weeks up to that point. And the same thing will happen with this gold-backed yuan. The yuan-denominated oil's futures contract will come and go without any impact whatsoever on the dollar, on the gold market. But by then, the pumpers will have a new story to pump, and that story will be gone. Just my prediction. We'll see what happens. Yeah, every time I see people talk about the gold-backed yuan, China announced it. China never announced it. And we've seen many commentators say it has been announced that they're going to back the yuan with gold and convertible on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And they changed it to not convertible on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, but they're going to source the gold from outside of China, which makes it nothing to do with China. If an oil producer wants to go and buy gold with whatever proceeds they have, and they won't even be yuan proceeds, by the way, they can always go and buy gold. This is not a game changer. This is nothing but a hype story. Changeable, convertible into gold. Yeah, China's consumer loans surged nearly 30% as debt worries resurface. This is not a wake-up call for the dollar or a game changer because there's a gold-backed yuan. The wake-up call is China is struggling with debt. China is struggling with trying to do a lot of things at once, central planning. Yes, and they are trying to internationalize the yuan. That's a very difficult thing to do, and I wrote a blog post that it's going to take years, if not decades, to even achieve any level of yuan internationalization, given what they're struggling with right now. And here is the link to China faces growing debt problems, says Chinese central bank governor. It's covered in CNBC. China central bank chief raises new worry in China, mortgage-driven household debt. But gold-backed yuan. Here's what he said. If there is too much, he's no dumb, he's smart. He knows how the business cycle works. If there is too much pro-cyclical stimulus in an economy, fluctuations will be hugely amplified. Zhao stated. Too much exuberance, sounds like Greenspan, when things are going well causes tensions to build up. This could lead to a sharp correction and eventually to a so-called Minsky moment. That's what we really must guard against. Well, he's probably already past that point. I don't know what guarding they can do because they don't seem to be interested in slowing the debt. And right now, they're spending more in debt than they are in getting in GDP growth, which means they've already past the point where debt stimulus is working, and now they have to borrow even more to try to get the economy growing even faster, and it's not working. Here's another guy in China, deputy of the National People's Congress. He said the real estate industry's excessive prosperity has not only kidnapped local governments, but also kidnapped financial institutions, restraining and even harming the development of the real economy. There's a lot going on here, pounding and so on. Restraining and even harming the development of the real economy, inflating asset bubbles, and accumulating debt risk. The biggest problem currently facing the country is how to reduce reliance on real estate. Sound familiar to what the United States went through in 2006-07? Remember, we need a real estate bubble to get the economy going. Well, that we know how that ends. And China's real estate bubble is much larger than the United States for a variety of reasons. Not only is the population bigger, but the amount of real estate that they built, they poured more concrete in a year, I think, than the United States ever poured in its entire history. They have these ghost cities. That's real estate. And that is a huge problem. So, Minsky moment, what does it mean? Sudden collapse of asset, this is my definition, of asset prices after an extended period of price appreciation caused by debt-fueled speculation. At some point, this debt grows and exceeds the asset values that are growing, and then boom, you just can't sustain the debt anymore. Now, we have seen that these government-run Ponzi schemes can last a lot longer than you would expect in a normal private Ponzi scheme because they do have access to capital. So there's a warning there. I'm not saying China's going to collapse tomorrow, next week. They could continue just to print yuan, borrow dollars. They could pull out all the stops and they can build more ghost cities. Kicking the can down the road is a lot easier when you're in charge of the money supply. Just a point here, backing the yuan with gold for oil doesn't help internationalize the yuan. That internationalizes gold. And at these prices, why would China even think of giving up their gold out of the Shanghai Gold Exchange that they've accumulated, or you are on the People's Bank of China's balance sheet or elsewhere, and basically give it away so they can internationalize the yuan? That's a concession that the yuan isn't worth anything unless they can give away gold, and they would drain all their gold. So that's not going to happen. Never going to happen. They never announced that. And now the story is, oh, the gold's going to come from elsewhere. Now, here's one that a lot of people are saying, you know, the anti-Bitcoin crowd is there's a new law coming out that Austrac might regulate cryptocurrencies. No, they already regulate bullion dealers this way. This is nothing new. When people try to claim that governments are going to clamp down on Bitcoin, they might. They could just as easily clamp down on gold and silver. My argument is, if you want to argue against Bitcoin, there's fundamental reasons to argue about it. Anytime you just bring in the government, that can apply to anything, any activity, at anything at all. If you want to say that the government's going to do something, you can apply that to any, as a negative for any asset class. Wake up call, game changer, China to issue. I just keep seeing this. Here it is. They're going to issue dollar-denominated. Oh, no. I'm sorry. China issues dollar-denominated bonds. That is a game changer. Well, it's not a game changer. It's something that's been going on for a while. China has a need for bonds. That is a fact. And this idea that they're somehow going to switch everything over to the yuan is nonsense, because China needs dollars. They have dollars. They borrow in dollars. There's dollars in China at the state-owned enterprise level. They're not going to just come out and try to move everything over to the yuan on one day when they launch a contract. That's not what's going to happen. They're going to try to get people interested in this yuan-denominated oil futures contract, but that's it. It's got nothing to do with gold, and it's a slow, steady process. Here's the link to the Minsky moment from the People's Bank of China's governor. Now, let's just take a look here. When people talk about, there's another myth out there, Russia's buying gold hand over fist. Now, no one knows this as much as I do, because I've been covering it every month. And as those of you who follow this channel, I update the Russian gold reserves each and every month. And we know that they're now at 1,779 tons. And most of that gold, or all of that gold that they get up till now, has been from their domestic mining production, which is second or third largest in the world. It's very smart of them. They take their depreciated rubles and they basically fund their state-owned, or not state-owned, but national mines, or mines that are held, that are operated within Russia. And they add gold, and they're adding a lot of gold. Now, those 1,779 tons, however, which are supposedly massive and they're there to prepare for war against the dollar and so on, it's worth 62 billion euro. The ECB, just from its QE, owns just corporate bonds, 119 billion. So this massive gold hoard that Russia is accumulating is worth 62 billion euros, $73 billion, half a month of QE, not even. It's good for Russia because it now is 17% of their overall foreign reserves, of which they've got about 450 billion. But it's no big protection against what's coming, and it certainly isn't a weapon against the United States that they have 73 billion in gold. In fact, they have 103 billion in U.S. treasuries. So all they're doing is trying to catch up with their gold reserves. They don't have this mega hoard that somehow changes the whole landscape, which is what the gold promoters want to make you believe. Why is Russia buying gold hand over fist and they're preparing to crush? No, they're not. All they're doing is they're stabilizing their reserve position. They've added gold. They've also increased their foreign reserves from about 350 million to over 450 billion, 350 billion to 450 billion. It's just part of prudent central bank management. It's not any plan to crush the dollar. Granted, see, what the problem with all these narratives are, yes, no one wants to be dominated by another country. Not China, not Russia, no country. But there's a difference between being upset about it and being able to do something about it. And we get all this cheerleading. that Russia's going to do this and China's going to do that. And I don't know why anyone would want to root for one country over the other. Because the way I look at it, almost all of them do things that you would not approve of. But there seems to be, in the gold community, this hatred of the dollar, and the dollar's got to go down. And somehow, you know, if Russia or China were running the world, it would be a better place. First of all, they're all somewhat connected in this whole game. They're central banks. So they're not out to help the gold people. They're not out to help anybody but their own positions. And frankly, 1,770 tons of gold is not that much whatsoever. It's nice. It's good if you look at it just from the gold perspective. But in the global economic perspective, it's nothing at all. 62 billion euro. All right, so now remember, here's another one. Remember when China was going to price gold in yuan in 2016? It was going to send gold skyrocketing. Well, we're back at it again. This new gold-backed yuan is going to send gold to $10,000. No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, China's planning to shock the world. I'm just going to leave that. You can see it. China's planning to shock the world by pushing the price of gold over 10,000. Of course they are. That's what China's goal in life is, to shock the world. People who claim to understand China know that China doesn't want to shock the world. It's trying to achieve all of its goals. That's why it has 5-year plans. It doesn't have a plan on a particular date to shock the world and rock the global markets by issuing a gold-backed yuan on a particular day, and then it's game over, game changer for the dollar. It's 180 degrees different from what actually China is doing. Well, here's a little respite from the Chinese rant and the gold-backed yuan rant. Most expensive grilled cheese in the world costs $214. You click on that link, you can actually see how they make it. You can eat this grilled cheese gold, I guess it's called gold flake. You can eat that. It doesn't taste like anything. I never had one, but I mean, it doesn't taste like anything. Now, supposedly, with all the press we got last week about gold-backed yuan and gold convertible on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, and China's going to force Saudi Arabia to accept the yuan, you would think the dollar would just collapse. Wow, look at all. Well, it didn't. It went up. Why did it go up? Because the markets don't listen to this nonsense. Dollar collapse, gold-backed yuan coming 2 months. In 2 months, wake-up call. Shock the world, rock global markets. Unfortunately, people listen to this stuff, not necessarily the markets, but hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people listen to this, believe this. It's a shame, but no one questions it. China has announced a gold-backed yuan. No, they haven't. Oh, but Sun Tzu, they would never announce. See, once you start wanting to believe it, you come up with Sun Tzu, you come up with, you can't prove it's not true, anything to keep the narrative alive. Oh, it won't be on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, it's going to come out of somewhere else, on the COMEX or the LBMA, that's where they can get their gold. All right, well, more stories. Can China inflate its debt away? I don't think so. Here's another, just a point. Russia's mega gold hoard. I think this was an article here. I think what he's trying to say in this article is that I think this is an example of one of those stories where they're trying to say that, yeah, Russia's they're just buying all the gold in the world, and they've got 38% of the world's gold purchased by central banks. Yeah, because the other central banks aren't buying any. But again, $73 billion worth of gold, less than half a month of US QE. It's not game over for the dollar. See, if you look at everything from a gold perspective, you think that way. You have to look at the whole picture. Not that I'm some type of a big thinker or anything, but you can't just look at things from the point of view of, what does this piece of information mean for gold? Oh, it must mean something good. It must, oh, well, if Russia's buying gold, they know something, and therefore gold's going to go to $10,000 because they want to crush the dollar. Well, that just shows that you're only thinking about gold. The world doesn't only think about gold. Now, here's what I asked. After China issued these dollar-denominated bonds, what 4D chess Sun Tzu-inspired move to dethrone the dollar has China issuing bonds in dollars instead of yuan? Just think about that. If China's main goal in life was to just accumulate the most gold that they could and then roll it out in a stadium and show everybody that they've got gold and no one else does and crush the dollar, why are they issuing dollar-denominated bonds? Because their economy works on dollar-denominated bonds. It doesn't work on gold, nor does the world economy. Just imagine the demand had China denominated their sovereign bond offering in game-changing yuan. Now, why isn't China issuing yuan bonds? Because no one wants them. That's the reason. We've seen the charts. The yuan as a reserve asset is non-existent in central banks. That is what China is trying to change. And you change that slowly. You don't change that by launching a gold-backed yuan convertible on the Shanghai Gold Exchange on one particular day. No, you start with what they're doing. They're going to have an oil contract denominated in yuan, and they'll see how it goes. They're going to try to gain acceptance that way. They're also going to try to work out their debt issues. They're going to try to gain the confidence of the rest of the world. They're not going to do it by some bold move that's going to shock the world and drive gold to $10,000. That's just that type of story just appealing to your, yeah, great, I have gold, I want it to go up. Yes, China's going to shock the world. I get tired of talking about this, but here you go. China's treasuries and the foreign reserves. Here's a snapshot of China's de-dollarization progress. So let's take a look at these charts. So you have the concept of China dumping treasuries because they want to crush the dollar. No, they've had between 1.1 and 1.3 trillion dollars in treasuries for years. They've just recently increased their treasury holdings to 1.2 trillion. They've added. Let's take a look at this as one of the pictures. And then you can see, you can't even see, that's the yuan right there. Well, here is the pictures of how much yuan are held by foreign central banks. And I don't care what size your screen is, you can't see it because it's way down here. Foreign central banks hold dollar, euros, yen, and pounds for the most part. They don't hold renminbi or yuan. Well, here's the Chinese treasury holdings. They're not dumping anything. They need these. They use these U.S. treasuries as collateral so they can borrow more money. And here is, let's skip that. Let's get back to the stories. All right. De-dollarization. So, yeah, if de-dollarization is such a big deal, like China says sovereign dollar bond deal was 11 times the size. So they could have sold even more if they wanted to. And there's the dollar index moving up. And remember, I get comments saying, oh, you're cheerleading the dollar. Why can you support? I'm not supporting anything. I'm pointing out that nonsense stories about gold-backed yuan doesn't mean I'm against gold. It means I'm totally against BS stories that promote gold. And people, people, once they decide that anything that's pro-gold, you have to not only believe, you have to promote it. And if you say it's not true, well, then you're a shill, or you're a globalist, or you're whatever. It's really a sign of once you've accepted a narrative. And that just means that no matter what someone tells you, the narrative must live. We must have the gold-backed yuan because China and Russia, that's all they're thinking about is dethroning the petrodollar. That's what they wake up in the morning thinking. They go out and they buy gold every day. And obviously, if you're not looking at it from a gold perspective, you realize these countries have other things to do. Not that that might not be one of the things they think about, but the idea that that's all they think about and their entire national goal is to do that, don't think so. So here, Venezuela avoids default. They had an $843 million debt payment. Wonder where they got that money from. Well, it was from getting the cash from the gold that they gave to Deutsche Bank. Now, for those of you keeping score at home, that's 5.6 billion game-changing yuan that they had to fork over to pay out their debt obligations. And they're not going to pay them out in yuan. Now, here's something that happened early in the year. And I found that not only is China, I know that the state-owned enterprises issue dollar-denominated bonds to raise capital, but actually China ordered it or told its bank to issue dollar-denominated debt earlier this year. So this idea that China is on this de-dollarization, they don't want to be reliant on the United States dollar. No one does. But they also have a understanding of reality of what they need to do to keep, and you know what, for central planning, you have to give them credit. They have done very well. But the idea that they could just wave a magic yuan, haha, and make the yuan an international currency is ludicrous. You forget the petro yuan. Then I wrote, here comes the dollar-backed yuan, and this particular post goes through the reliance that China has on dollars, and that this idea of a petro yuan coming out in 2 months and being a game changer is nonsense. It's not going to happen in 2 months. It might not ever happen at all. This is a very good story here. This was Societe Generale, and Zero has posted the whole thing. It goes through this this contract that's coming out, the yuan-denominated oils contract, and it has nothing to do with gold. It's a very well-written piece. It goes through how the contract works. It mentions what China's plans are, but it also mentions how limited in scope and ambition this particular contract is. This contract is meant to be the first step towards internationalizing the yuan and getting people to maybe think and hedge their contract in yuan. That's all it is. At least that's all that's been announced. Now, if Sun Tzu, they're going to not announce something and shock the world. Okay. My point still remains the same. Then I'm going to be surprised and I will be shocked just like everybody else. But this has no gold in it, no physical oil delivery. It's not even, they're not even changing the oil pricing from yuan from dollars to yuan. This is just a hedging instrument in yuan, according to Societe Generale. So it's just a reminder again, you'll see the pumping of the fake gold-backed yuan story subside as the date draws closer. And again, they will come up with another story. Why it's going to take years to internationalize the Chinese yuan. Of course it will. Another article I wrote, but this isn't my opinion. This is what China has said they're going to do. These are their plans. Remember, that's what they want to do. That's what they're going to try to do. They're not going to do it in one day. It's not going to happen in December. Now, NFL attendance is down 35% because of all this take-the-knee stuff and the fans don't like it. Well, game changer for gold. Gold set to skyrocket as fans convert NFL ticket savings to gold. Yeah, this is what happens when you look at everything from a gold perspective. Anything you see, you say, oh, okay, well, then that must be good for gold. No. That's the same thing with this gold-backed yuan story. They're going to have yuan, and they're going to go and buy gold with it. All right. We're almost done here. Thanks for staying with me so far. It's been a year since People's Bank of China added gold to reserves. That goes against the narrative, but there you go. Don't tell your adversary how much gold you have. U.S. Mint sales, they improved a bit. I think we ended up with 1 million so far. American Silver Eagles sold, but just 10,000 1-ounce American Gold Eagles sold. There were 2 reports during the week. We brought back the Smaulgld subscribers Sound Off series. We did 3 interviews this week. One with Kevin Hicks. He talked about ICOs versus cryptos. There's the dollar bond issuance from China. We talked to VJ about paper and plastic currencies, and we also talked to Red about the Bitcoin, his differences between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin is money, he says, and Ethereum is law. So you want to check out those interviews, and of course, if you've been on the show before and you want to come back, just let me know. I'm trying to reschedule everyone who's been on the show before. And if you'd also like to be on the show and you are a Smaulgld subscriber, send me an email and we'll try to get you scheduled. And that's about it. So thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this report, please consider donating to Smaulgld via PayPal, via Bitcoin, via Litecoin at the addresses below, or via become a Smaulgld patron at the link below and also on the website. And also consider purchasing your precious metals through Smaulgld. Not investment advice to do so, but you can compare pricing and shipping at a variety of bullion dealers. And if you do buy from those sites by clicking on the links. You pay no more or less than if you visited them directly, but Smaulgld gets a small commission. And also, again, not investment advice. If you're interested in trading cryptocurrencies, you can do so by opening a Coinbase account through the Smaulgld site. And if you buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, they will credit you with $10 worth of Bitcoin, and they will credit Smaulgld with $10 worth of Bitcoin. So please check that out. Again, not investment advice. If you're interested, on Coinbase, you can trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. Thank you very much.